So you're 2 years in, it's just the two of you, and you just closed two of the largest property management companies in the country. How did that feel?
I don't think I felt anything. At the beginning, we actually weren't very visionary. We were focused on what is the first bottleneck.
You were just right back into it.
Right.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Today we're joined by Minna Song, who's the co-founder and CEO of EliseAI, which was founded in 2017, which is unusual for an AI company to be founded more than 4 months ago. But the company is building agentic conversational AI for housing operators and healthcare systems, which are two of my least favorite markets to ever interact with. So it's bold of them to go after both at the same time. Most recently, if you've seen them in the headlines, they've raised $250 million in a Series E that was led by Andreessen Horowitz in August of this year at a reported $2.2 billion valuation. So welcome. How's spending all that money going?
Well, we're trying not to spend it all in one place, but it's been really great. We've had a lot of growth of our team. We're investing in a lot of different areas that we couldn't before, and it's been really great.
So, I mentioned the intro. You founded this in 2017. I'd love to hear a little bit of that founding story and where this company came from, and kind of walk us through the journey up to today.
Yeah, so I started this with my co-founder, Tony. He's the CTO and leads all of product and engineering, but we actually both come from software engineering backgrounds. So we actually met in college when we were both studying computer science together. I studied at MIT. He studied at University of Cambridge in the UK, but I actually did a year out there and met him basically the first day. So it was a great trip to find a co-founder. And yeah, after college, we decided we wanted to build something, build a company. And unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of good ideas. So we ended up starting a different company before Elise, and it was a social media startup. But as kids do, that's what they know. And I think we just quickly realized doing that we didn't love the impact that we were making, and essentially we were just helping people watch more ads and didn't feel good about working 100-hour weeks to do that. So that sort of led to the framework. It was really the lessons learned out of that led to how did we want to think about a company that we wanted to start and we want to dedicate our lives to. So really that made us really think about building technology that genuinely improves people's lives. And we really thought about, when we were thinking about that, we really framed it as we wanted to build technology for industries that serve a fundamental human need. So while you said housing and healthcare are two of your least favorite industries, I think that's perfect because they're incredibly important, and that just means there's a lot of room to make them a lot better. And everyone needs those things. Everyone needs a place to live. Everyone needs access to healthcare. And I think AI had technology just has a lot of room to make these services better and increase the capacity for professionals in those industries to serve more people. So that's kind of how we got started in the housing industry, and that's how we decided on an expansion to healthcare many years later. But the actual beginning of Elise was started when we actually didn't know anything about the industry. So instead of sort of going in and, as engineers do, starting to build a product for customers you know nothing about, I took a job working at a real estate firm in New York City, and that was really where I got a lot of exposure. So I was a front desk admin, so I met a bunch of people, I greeted everyone, and I learned everything about what we built here at the beginning from that role and from all the people that were around me.
How long were you at the admin desk?
I was only there for about 3 months, actually. Mm-hmm. But I think we wouldn't have ever built this company without that opportunity.
And so that initial product, it was basically to help prospective tenants and landlords communicate more quickly, or existing, something like that, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So today what we build is essentially we build AI agents that automate manual workflows, but it started as a conversational AI that picked up the phone and answered emails and text messages, and answered inquiries from renters who were looking to rent an apartment. So we got kind of slotted into the leasing process as a way to handle the high volume of inquiries that were coming in, answering questions, scheduling appointments. But that sort of expanded as we've grown the company to a lot more use cases and a lot more automation.
I want to get to the agent stuff here in a minute because I think that's interesting. But I want to go, what was the tech stack in the beginning? Because this was before large language models. I think the attention is all you need paper was that 2016, 2018, something like that. 2017. Yeah. So it was still too early for all that. So what were you building that was AI back then?
Yeah, Attention is All You Need came out June 2017, and we were incorporated in January 2017. So you can see how lucky this timing was. It sort of replaced all the RNNs and everything that people were using before. But at the beginning, we were sort of selling and building and educating the market, so it came at perfect time for us. And as the transformer, a lot of people were building early transformer models like BERT. We got to take advantage of a lot of that technology. So the original models were sort of built on BERT and similar architectures, so that it would take in a message from in. So we actually didn't have voice at this point, but it would take in like an email or text message, and we would use sort of classification models to do natural language understanding. So we would understand what the renter was asking for, and then we would actually generate all the replies using rules-based framework. So it was like generate a sentence and then generate the next sentence and put them in this order, and it was very variables, and so it was complicated, much more complicated than it is with generative AI, but it worked, and renters actually thought they were speaking with a human. Even if you make it fine grained enough, then it actually was a commercially viable product. We wouldn't have probably been able to build what we build today just with those old mechanisms alone, but it worked decently well. We were able to bring a product to market. We were on those old models. We were serving hundreds of thousands of apartments across the U.S. and with some of the largest housing providers in the country. But it changed a lot as large language models came out, as generative AI came out.
So 2017, the Transformers comes out. You're doing the BERT models. So what does the go-to-market go like? Especially since the both of you are technical backgrounds, and you sell mostly to larger apartment owners, correct? It's more the large-scale property owners is who your target market is?
That's where we started. So we work with most of the largest housing providers in the country, but we've actually pushed pretty far down market because our goal is how do we serve the entire market? And that could be somebody, maybe you own a few properties that you use as passive income or, a financial instrument for you to invest in. We want to serve you. And actually, I think there's even a greater need for people like that versus just large property management companies. But that's where we started.
Like, what does it actually look like? Is that you? Are you hiring a sales team at this point when you're starting to land these enterprise deals, or is it you taking flights all around the country, or how are you actually doing this? Because it feels deeply unlikely that you should be successful, right? Like it doesn't seem like it would work, but it obviously did. So I'm curious, like those early days, what was the pitch? How did it work?
Yeah, early days were founder-led sales for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was not easy. Real estate is not the fastest tech adopting industry in the world. And so you really had to think about how are you going to make this really advanced technology land with a non-technical audience. And I think you actually had to be kind of technical to bridge that gap. But yeah, eventually we hired a sales team. Today we do a lot of direct sales. I still fly around the country every week, at least one city a week. So that never really stopped. But yeah, it's gotten a lot more. A lot of people obviously understand AI a lot better now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely hard at the beginning. I mean, AI wasn't really in any industry. We were one of the first companies to deploy it for real world applications. I think it was still sort of people didn't really believe that it could solve problems. You hear a lot of things. You hear less of them now, but things like humans want to buy from humans, or I would never put a robot in in this process, but I think of it as a lot like the transformation that banks went through, right? So early, when people were doing go to market for ATMs, that was not going to be easy, right? It's like, are people going to trust a machine with their money? But I think now they trust ATMs more than they trust a bank teller, probably. And so, of course, it's expensive to install and to maintain. So I think that's sort of the same curve that AI is going to go through or has gone through in most industries.
Are you selling to the property management companies or to the actual real estate owners?
We do both. So sometimes those are the same person. Someone owns it and they manage it themselves. Especially down market, that's normally what happens. But otherwise, we can sell to either type of customer.
Part of this very specific line of questions is back before I decided I wanted to type for a living. I worked at Stockwell, which was an AI vending machine company where we were selling to the exact same clients that you guys sell to, of these big property owners. We'd have them install these AI vending machines in their lobbies, and it was go to market. That was just the hardest part. But I think with your guys' product, their incentive is, hey, we get too many inquiries. We can't filter through them enough. It's too time consuming. This will help us improve our margin, respond to more leads. So it's, they buy you and it's a direct impact somewhere in their sales funnels. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. How did you end up selling those to
we ended up selling the company for parts. No, we ended up, usually it was like a direct upfront incentive, install these machines, we'll give you, X amount of dollars. And then we knew what our payback periods were. So it ended up working. We scaled it to about 4 cities. And then for a variety of reasons, the company wasn't able to work out, but it was fun. It was before AI was popular. So, we didn't quite get to the point where you got where like, oh, AI is this tailwind where the market works. For us, it was just always, people just never believed in the vision. They were kind of like little Amazon Go stores people could put in their lobbies, basically.
Really interesting. Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard industry to sell to. They don't spend a lot of money on technology. They're not buying it regularly. And so each of those things are new processes. It's not like selling to, enterprise SaaS companies.
Well, no, and I think that's a common misconception is for these type of customers, the margin's actually pretty thin. Like they run pretty lean shops. Like they're not just Donald Duck diving into bathtubs full of money. It's actually a hard business to be in.
Yeah. It's funny in our industry, a lot of companies sort of follow that same trajectory where, they get a little bit of traction, but then they can't sort of get the escape velocity. And our customers are always kind of shocked that they're like, why do no startups make it? Well, because they don't actually want to pay for anything until it's validated because of those thin margins, right? So you have to offer something for free for a really long time. And then, of course, that's very hard for especially a startup that hasn't had a lot of funding to actually get past the initial phases, because you can only offer so much for free up front, right? You were offering those heavy incentives up front. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic to sell to a low margin business, a low margin industry.
What was the point in that you have that 2017 founding? What was the point where you really felt product market fit for the first time, when the demand started to get a little bit easier? So you started to get that pull.
Yeah, I think we knew we had product market fit in terms of the product worked and solved a big problem when we launched our very first customer. So we launched one of the largest property management companies in New York City, because that's where we are. So that's where we were selling to. And we launched on 5 buildings to start. I think they had 25 buildings at the time. And 3 weeks after launching, they said, get this on all of our properties as quickly as you can. So that's when we felt product market fit. When people talk about, oh, you just know you have it. It was going faster than we can expect. I'd say from a sales standpoint, where we were realizing this could be this could actually work. We could sell. We could make money from this business. Was probably when we were selling to the largest we were starting to sell to the largest enterprise property management companies. So Avalon Bay Equity Residential were, I think, 2 of the largest housing providers in the country, and they signed up with us in end of 2018, early 2019. And so this was a couple of years after we got started. It was just me and my co-founder at the time, actually. So they took a big risk, but they took a big risk because it was a real problem that they had to solve.
So you're 2 years in, it's just the two of you, and you just closed two of the largest property management companies in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, did you pop you should be cheering. I want to fit,
no time to cheer.
No time to cheer. Okay, you were just right back into it.
Imagine that. Now you have hundreds of thousands of apartments, and you've only really ever supported a couple thousand, right? So no time.
Had you raised capital at this point? How much had you raised?
No, we had raised $0. We started raising money because we signed them on, and we had to figure out how we would fulfill these contracts. And so we hired our first employee, who we didn't pay. We couldn't pay for 6 months, but he helped actually with myself and my co-founder, helped with raising funding. Avalon Bay Equity Residential, our first customer from New York, invested as well, because they wanted to make sure we could support their portfolios.
Nice. Was the pricing back then, was it just pure SaaS? How, was there right now outcome-based pricing is all the rage? Was it just normal licensing or seating or per apartment?
Yep, per apartment. So yeah, it's normal SaaS, which is the same business model we use today.
2019, so you really you have these big deals, they're coming in, you raise a little bit of capital, and the machine starts to turn. I imagine that felt surreal, right? Like after just 2 years of the two, you just grinding, that it finally, the whole thing started to come together. How did that feel?
I don't think I felt anything. I think we were just, I don't get those. I don't know if other startups have those points, but I mean, obviously it was better than the alternative of running out of money and dying. But I mean, it was hard. I mean, everything, when you sign on these big deals and you have these opportunities, it's hard to deploy. It's hard to deploy at scale. We had to step up the level of technology we were providing. These were big public companies. There was very little room for error, and they had to go perfectly because this was our one shot, right? So I think we were more focused on that. But yeah, I think it's the momentum that it generated was amazing and put us on the map. And yeah, I mean, they did most of the marketing for us. They did most of the sales for us. We didn't do it ourselves.
Gotcha. So that takes you to 2019. So the next couple of years, you're just selling. You're building out the company. You're building out the technology. You're kind of doing the normal blocking and tackling of a SaaS company as they expand into their market. One thing that I hate industry language, but just to use it, typically you'll see an AI wedge where they come into a market. We can sell this AI solution that's a very specific part of your workflow, and we're going to expand to start doing more and more stuff for you. When was that for you? So you have this conversational product. When do you start offering more workflow automations around it?
Yeah, when customers are begging you for it. So I think what happened in our space was we had this AI leasing product, but then customers were saying, hey, I have all these other workflows. It's similar to this. Can't you just do this? And so we wanted to deliver new products. Actually, the problem that we had was we had built the first versions of the system so quickly. We had so much technical debt because it was me and my co-founder while we were building the thing out, at the same time selling, maintaining customer success and all that stuff. But we were starting this as 2021. We were just starting to hit the limits. And we couldn't build a new product on the existing architecture. So plus all these new models were coming out. GPT-3 came out in 2020. You started seeing these few shot learning, zero shot learning was performing really well. And so we wanted to make sure we could adapt and that we could build new products. And so we actually decided in 2021 to rebuild our entire architecture. And that was the most traumatic period of our company's history. I think that sounds like a terrible idea, right? I think we wouldn't be here today if we hadn't made that investment. But most companies that try to do that fail. But it was a year-long project, and after we launched the V2 of our system, we were able to speed up our product velocity many times over. So we started shipping products like crazy, actually. And then we started delivering our resident suite of products. So handling our AI agents that handle everything sort of post someone moving in. So maintenance requests and helping people with payments, helping people with their lease renewals. And so we started having this sort of full cycle AI that would be someone's assistant from the point of them being interested in a building to doing, to helping them all the way until they move out. So yeah, I think this just honestly customers asking for new stuff led us to do these things. Although of course they're asking for faster horses, and we have to deliver something that's AI driven and actually automates the whole thing. But we have to translate all that to the vision that we have. But I don't think we actually started out thinking we were going to be building this massive tech stack. I think at the beginning we actually weren't very visionary. We were focused on what is the first bottleneck. I think we're both engineers. I think that's how we think. Like, okay, in a system, you want to improve it, you fix the bottleneck. And then what's the next bottleneck? And what's the next bottleneck? And then over time, that sort of grew and the vision started to form that, hey, if you extrapolate and you fix all of these bottlenecks, you have a building that's run in a way that's fully automated, or what we call today an autonomous building. And so that's really what formed the vision.
With that V2 that you said it was 2021, was that a lot of, we have to fix our back end, there's just so much technical debt here? Or was it, hey, we need to flip our AI technology into using GPTs, or what was it? It was a little bit of both?
Yeah, absolutely both, yeah.
What was the moment where, do you remember when you're like, oh, wait, I actually think transformer models are it? Like, I actually think we're going to have to do this. Do you remember when that occurred to you?
Well, we knew transformer models were performing much better than anything previously. We knew that in 2017. We actually had a classmate of ours that worked with a professor that was working on this. So he clued us in early. That's how we kind of knew it was changing quickly. How we knew generative AI specifically was getting better was really, I think, GPT-3, which was, I think, mid-2020. It wasn't really commercially viable. We tried to use it, but it wasn't great. GPT 3.5 was better, and then 4 was much, much better than GPT 3.5. So we kind of knew we needed to do stuff. We needed to get ready for it, but it wasn't something that we could really use in a setting that was, so important as, housing's very expensive. So if you start losing those contracts for our customers because you have a bad experience, then you're not going to be around for very long.
Help me understand. I mean, it's not like these problems weren't being solved before. And what is the relationship to more traditional property management software? Like, how were the customers solving this before this was going on?
People. They just had loads and loads of people doing really tedious tasks on site, answering the same email 50 times a day. Here's how much a one-bedroom costs. Here's our pet policy. I'll schedule you an appointment, right, manually. They do that. They did that in healthcare as well. Same thing. Now a lot of that can be automated.
Gotcha. Now, I think at this point we're coming to where I think is the most interesting, like, non-intuitive jump in your journey for me, where you're sold, you're expanding, it works, you kind of have it figured out, you're on this new tech stack, and then you say, let me go after one of the most notoriously difficult markets in healthcare. I'd love to feel like the very first inkling, maybe it was you or your co-founder's head of like, oh, actually, we need to go add in another market into our mix.
We just weren't feeling enough pain. It was actually during the system rebuild when we were designing that new system. We were trying first to build new products for our housing customers. But in the process, it was like, oh, this is kind of becoming abstracted enough where it's sort of conversation agnostic or industry agnostic. We're like, okay, well, maybe we could apply this to other industries and expand our mission. And we actually did a big search and did a bunch of research about a bunch of different industries. But I think we knew from day one, even before we started doing that, we were just going to go into healthcare. It was good validation because we wanted to make sure could the technology we're building? We weren't building just an entirely new company, right? We still needed to build a conversational AI or agentic AI product, because that's what we knew how to do. But we needed to make sure that our product was able to solve the problems in the new industry that we were going into. So it was validation of that, really, that came out of that research. But it was something that also came up. When we were building, all of the employees, everyone goes to a doctor once in a while, and they were like, we could help this process. And so we sort of felt, I think if you can do something, you sort of have the responsibility to do it if you think you can.
The key contrast, I think, with healthcare is there is this big system of record. There is Epic is this huge gorilla in the space. There's a lot of software, and it doesn't work particularly well in healthcare, but there is a lot of it already. And so do you find yourself having to start once again with this very specific, for the housing, it was leasing. Is there a similarly specific workflow that you're starting with in healthcare and expanding from there? Or are you coming in with a full solution?
No, we started specifically with, actually very similar to our leasing product. We're handling scheduling appointments for physicians. So integrates with their phone system, it answers the phone calls, it qualifies, and it schedules appointments. So it's actually very similar to the leasing product, where it answered inquiries, qualified, and scheduled tours. So yeah, we did start there, and then are expanding the product suite in healthcare.
From a company perspective, how did you do this? Like, did you form a skunkworks team that did this? Did you hire a president, or how did you actually do this?
Yeah,
how'd you pull this off so far?
Yeah, we thought about it, and we wanted to build it. We wanted to be intentional about how we structured it, so it wouldn't distract, because we still had a huge roadmap on the housing side. So we structured it as a pretty sort of independent part of our company. So there were engineers that obviously built the platform, and we wanted to take advantage as much as possible of our existing platform. But then sort of the go-to-market teams, the operations teams are completely different. So it sort of acts as a startup, like an earlier stage startup within a startup. And that's what allowed us to keep tackling both.
Gotcha. Did you end up trying to bring in a senior leader for that division, or are you doing it yourself?
Yeah, we're doing it now. We're bringing in somebody, but it was sort of us getting it off the ground, taking what we knew about our technology and the way we went to market in housing with this new, this type of tech. But then, the team's formed, and we're bringing in a leader soon, so that's exciting.
Cool. What was the feedback from your board at this point? Because you said this was 2021, so there was still AI it was there. It wasn't quite, it's nothing like it is today. But were they supportive of this expansion, or were they nervous about it? How did that go over?
Both.
Both.
But so are we.
Yeah.
Look, I think we tried to do it in a way that would mitigate risk, right? Let's try something. Let's put it out there. We weren't spending tons of money on it until there was traction and whatnot. I think that money doesn't, throwing a ton of money at something doesn't really help, especially when you're pre-product market fit, right? It just sort of is very wasteful. So I think as long as you sort of execute it correctly, everyone was supportive of the plan that we had.
What is the balance of the company today? How much, what percentage of staff is on housing versus healthcare?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's more like you can call it a Series A company, maybe. Yeah. The benefit of having a bigger company as well is that they have a ton of resources that are available to them that we didn't have, right? I mean, even the basic things of starting a company, like how do you do payroll, and how do you get office space? Like that's just stuff that they don't have to, the silly stuff that has nothing to do with building your product, right? They don't have to worry about that stuff. But it's like an earlier stage company versus the later stage company that is the housing side. But I think they've gone a lot faster than we did originally because of a bunch of a bunch of benefits I mentioned.
So that takes us to today, where I want to talk about housing for the rest of the conversation, because I think this is where we're right on the edge of what is possible with your autonomous buildings. Maybe in as plain, non-jargony as possible, walk me through, what the AI product is today on the housing side.
Yeah. So today we non-jargony, you threw me off there. I mean, today what it's doing is it's automating the administrative workflows that a lot of people at a property do. So you can think a leasing agent, they take in inquiries from people looking to rent an apartment. Our AI is now sort of intercepting those and answering emails, text messages, however you communicate, right? You call or you walk in. You have a way to interact with that building through our AI versus having to speak with a human. And we get you all the way from when you're inquiring to when you want to apply to that apartment. So our products can help you with the application process until when you move in, and then we're helping you with all the things that are needed when you're a resident. So really, you can think of it as if you move into a property, you can text with our AI. Probably similar you've experienced at hotels now, right? It pings you and asks if you need anything. Our AI does something similar, but it can handle much more complex inquiries that happen when you're actually living, when it's your home, not just you're visiting, a hotel and you don't really care. There are sort of much realer workflows that happen at an apartment building. So it's handling all those administrative workflows, and it's helping free up all the on-site staff so that they can do things that really matter versus answering the same messages over and over again or triaging calls and entering data.
So basically, all the conversational data, whether it was spoken or typed or whatever, that was coming into a building, you now automate that. All the stuff that was going between a building and its residents, you now have an AI, and then on the way out as well.
Exactly.
Are you building, maybe it's a different term in housing, but the equivalent of a CRM, where are you helping them manage their properties, and are you doing the payment workflows? Are you that deep into the tech stack yet?
We do have a CRM. So yeah, we do a lot of the workflows. So for example, what happens after you communicate with a resident? You actually have to take a lot of action. So maybe you have to generate a document, or you have to submit a maintenance request, and then that maintenance request has to go. Actually, something has to happen with that maintenance request for it to get done. It has to go to the right person. It has to be put in the right priority. It has to. So we do all of that actually with our products as well. So it's not just that conversational component. It's not that interface with the resident, but it's actually executing on all the tasks. And then yes, we have a CRM, so people can use. Or agents can interact with the AI and get all the information that they need, and it's been optimized so AI can do most of the work, and humans just have to do the very, very few tasks that get escalated to them.
And so the customer journey, they sign up for the conversational product, and then over time they're like, oh man, you guys you have all of this data anyways. Can I just integrate it? And like, oh, actually we can. Here's our CRM. And that's how you add more revenue per user over time. Is that typically how it goes? Or are you trying to sell this thing as one big bulk upfront sell?
We have you can kind of buy different AI agents, but actually our CRM is free because people are sort of used to having that be the tool, whereas we see that as more the AI is actually adding the value, and the CRM is over time. Hopefully, the CRM goes away actually because the AI is doing all that work, so the humans have to do less and less. So we don't want to charge for something that over time is going to disappear. So that's been our revenue model for our CRM.
That is, I think, most vertical software CEOs' worst nightmare. Like what you're describing is when I started talking to vertical SaaS founders in 2021 around AI, this was the big fear, right? That an AI agent would come in, take off this top data layer, and then integrate and surround them, take all their data, and one day just offer their product for free. And they could just be, either relegated into a dumb database or just kind of turned off, and you would be able to capture all the workflows. And of all the companies I've talked to, it seems like you're the one maybe furthest into that journey. It sounds like that's what's happening, where these classic property management systems are slowly relegated to less and less useful as AI agents automate more of the workflows that they used to do for humans. Am I understand? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's still a need for those systems because they are sort of the source of truth for data.
Yeah.
But how we've always approached it is, even from the beginning, like, okay, there's some bad technology in the real estate space, but why don't we tackle the places where there's no technology, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about that, those are the human workflows. And so every time we think about what do we build next, we're not there to just try to capture, zero sum part, market share. We're trying to create value, right?
Yeah.
And so there's there's thousands of things that humans do on site that really are not tasks that humans should have to suffer, have to do it all. And so let's automate those versus going after technology that exists in the market. That's just not where I think most AI companies will add the most amount of value anyway.
I mean, I lived at one of these big property management, big landlord buildings once, and we had the forms where you could sign them up. And I found it was easier to text the guys who were the maintenance guys and then tell them I had like a beverage and if they could come fix the thing, and it would get done a lot faster than if I worked through the official system. So it sounds like you've circumnavigated my hack with your AI agents, but it's probably better for everyone all around if that's not how you get work done in your apartment.
I think it'll be better for you as well.
Okay, so I think that kind of takes us. You raised this big round. Maybe talk to me how that came together. Did you do the tour of Silicon Valley? Was it inbound? How did this big $250 million come together?
Yeah, so there's a lot of appetite from insiders to do to fund us with another round. So we didn't have a lot of pressure. We didn't need the money. We actually hadn't spent any of our Series D money either. So, but because there was a lot of interest, we spoke to a few different partners or a few different investors that we had known and built relationships with over the years, and really thought about, hey, what could we do with this money if we were to raise another round? And then identified a bunch of areas where we could accelerate our growth. And so we decided to do it. We were very lucky to take on really great new investors. Obviously, Andreessen Horowitz is a huge network and gives us a lot of resources and they know, they have a lot of experience in a lot of portfolio companies that have been able to help me think about how do we go through the next stage of growth. Bessemer Venture Partners also came in and very strong thesis on vertical AI, a lot of experience investing in with portfolio companies in vertical AI. So it was just a great match and good timing for all this to come together. So it was actually not a very difficult round for us to go through. It took about 3 weeks in total. So we try not to distract too much from the day-to-day, and I don't like fundraising. So you do it when it's easier versus do it when you need to, and it takes 6 months and you want to die.
Yeah. Is that wild? I just spent 3 weeks and raised $250 million. That's just so much money. Like I try not to lose track of, lose that sense of like, oh man, that, because it feels relative. I saw today a seed round that was something like $116 million.
Oh my God.
And I know.
My
but
seed round was like $1.9 million. So it was a very different time.
Very different.
And
my seed
we were no funding for 2.5 years. So it was a very different time now.
Yeah, I mean, aren't you? I'm sure now you're probably grateful for that because it allowed you to find product market fit and allowed you to, less dilution than you probably would have otherwise. So, do you look back with gratitude, or do you wish you had raised more earlier?
No, I don't think we would have survived actually, because if you think about the timeline of AI, you think about a bunch of different timeline of real estate adoption. I think we would have been spending in the wrong places, and I think. Yeah, I don't think money solves a lot of problems either. So even for the seed company, I don't know which company you're talking about, and maybe it's a very capital-intensive company, and you actually just need that to get it off the ground. But for a company like ours, you didn't need that. You need that once you have product market fit. You need that for intentional things that will be able to make you scale. But we definitely didn't need that at the beginning.
What does it look like going forward? Do you just see all this place that AI agents can do more? Or help me understand what gets you excited enough to raise another 250 million and keep going?
We have a huge roadmap.
Yeah.
We have a huge roadmap in housing and a huge roadmap in healthcare. And when your customers need something, you just have a very strong desire to deliver it to them. And then you resource plan and you're like, wow, this is going to be not easy and it's going to take a lot of people to accomplish all these things. And people are going to be expensive, especially when you're in New York City and San Francisco and you're fighting for, talent that everyone else is fighting for. So yeah, I guess it's, I don't know, a desire to keep growing and doing really hard things that if you look around the industries that we're in, we don't think anyone else will do them really.
For your tech stack today, is it, help me understand what large language models you're using, or like, what is it, as you've progressed just from conversation to more actions, how has your, your LLM stack shifted?
Yeah. So like I said at the beginning, we were, it was very, very different. We weren't using large language models. We were spending a lot of time sort of tagging, training data and building those things ourselves. So we don't do a lot of that anymore. But we've incorporated, we use a bunch of different LLMs. I think that's best practice now, right? You're kind of, all those models are competing with each other. Different LLMs today perform better on some tasks than others. So a lot of what we do is make sure we're constantly evaluating what's new in market. Can it replace something that we've built before? We never want to be outdated. We always want to have the most performant tools for our customers as possible. So yeah, it's sort of our mandate that we test something that when it comes out the same day. And so that agility is incredibly important as we're building this. But yeah, we use a bunch of things. We build our own things to make sure we're delivering products that are reliable, stable. We compliant in highly regulated industries, but also these are large enterprises, right? They're not going to deal with something that just kind of, spits out a non-deterministic answer and you can't control what it says.
If I were to ask you to choose where all models stop progressing right now, or your product stops progressing, so you have to choose between, oh man, our software never gets better or our models never get better, what would you pick?
So it depends if the models become AGI, right? Because then the models can build all of the software anyway. If I don't think I think everyone's trying to get it to that point. So that's a good question. Do I want the models to become AGI though? I really don't think that's a smart way for humanity to go. So I'm going to say models should stop getting better. We can build software. I think it's also interesting in our world that you can think in housing, it's a very physical. It's very physical, right? We're dealing with the real world. So when we think about technology, parts of our software that we build that are not large language model based, it's like, how do you integrate with a smart lock or a lock box so that you can get somebody through a door, right? If you're trying to fix a maintenance request, and you have to hire a contractor and send them over to the building, it's not going to be very effective if you can't let them in the building, right? So I think for our applications, it's much more important actually at this point because it's not just having that conversational component. It's really what do you do with it and how do you drive the right outcome? Because if you send the wrong person, if you don't let them in the building, you just completely fail.
Yeah, it's really a roundabout way of asking for you what is more important, the AI component or the software component, because the models are really good right now, and I don't think there's a consensus answer on this question of, are they good enough that we can now go build all the stuff we've been thinking we can build for the last couple of years? And it sounds like for at least the actions that you're trying to automate, the model side is good enough, and now it's a lot about building out the software, building out all the workflows.
Right. And like I said, if the models do get much, much better, then it will, but they have to be able to write sort of all integrations. They have to understand everything and every part of our customer's business for it to drive the right outcome.
Yeah, so
I think it's a little bit
we're
far from there.
yeah, I think we're far away from there. Okay, I think that's all the questions that I have for you. If I happen to have a landlord who's listening in, where would they find you?
They can go to our website. It's EliseAI.com. And then they can, we have lots of conferences around the country, so we'd love to see them in person, human to human.
Love that. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Evan.